Welcome students. Now we will start with the very complex biogeochemical cycle, that is nitrogen cycle. So this is a little complex cycle, it's not like the other cycles. It's a very complex cycle where we are converting or where there is conversion of the inert nitrogen. Inert meaning is inactive. This inactive nitrogen is not useful for any plants nor for the animals. If it is in the inert form, it is not useful for the plants nor for the animals. So this inert nitrogen is getting converted into useful form. So when it is getting converted to useful form, when I mean the useful form, it may be nitrites, it may be nitrates. So this useful form, useful in the sense it is biologically useful form. It will be used by either plants or animals. So firstly it will be used up by the plants. You all know NPK fertilizers. We have talked about the macronutrients. Macronutrients, NPK, nitrogen. The first component is nitrogen. So nitrogen is a very important nutrient for the plants. So this nitrogen which is present in the atmosphere, if this is our earth. So there is atmosphere. This atmosphere contains nearly 78% of nitrogen, and this 78% of nitrogen is of no use for the plants and the animals. No use for the plants and the animals in the sense this is in the form of inactive, or it's a inert nitrogen. Inert nitrogen means it's of no use for the plants, and when it is not being used by the plants, it may not be used by the plants, it will not be transferred to the next level, that is herbivores, then to the carnivores. So this inactive or inert nitrogen needs to be converted into useful form. That cycle we are going to call it as the nitrogen cycle. Like it is a recycling of what? Nitrogen, or conversion of the inert nitrogen into useful biological form of nitrogen. So firstly we will see what is, now do you remember how much is the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere? Nearly 78%. Then we will talk about nitrogen and its uses. Why this nitrogen is needed? Because it forms the building block of proteins and nucleic acids. So proteins are composed of, you all know, proteins are made up of amino acids. And when we tell amino acids, there is nitrogen. So that means nitrogen forms a component of proteins. Okay, and even nucleic acids. You all know what is nucleic acid. Nucleic acid is DNA and RNA. Deoxyribonucleic acid, ribonucleic acids. So that means nitrogen is also a component in proteins and nucleic acid. So that is the significance of nitrogen. And plants cannot use this inactive nitrogen. That means 78% of nitrogen, but it is of no use for the plants. Though it is a nutrient, it cannot be absorbed by the plants because it is in which form? Inert form or inactive form. So this inert atmospheric nitrogen needs to be converted to some useful form, that is nitrites and nitrates. And who is doing that? That work is done by the symbiotic bacteria. Symbiotic means those relationship where both the partners are benefited. Followed. So you have heard about this bacteria, Rhizobium, Nitrosomonas. Again we have Azotobacter, free living bacteria. Okay. So symbiosis means they are living in association. There are some free living bacteria also like Azotobacter, which is helping in the fixation of nitrogen. So see the term there, nitrogen fixation. Nitrogen fixation means there is conversion of this inert atmospheric nitrogen into nitrites and nitrates. And this will be used up by who? By the plants. Followed? So these plants will now get what? Nitrogen. And from plants it will get transferred to the next level, that is animals. Understood? Animals means from herbivores it will go to the carnivores. And that will form, that nitrogen which is taken up will form the blocks. Which blocks? Proteins and nucleic acids. So important is nitrogen for our body. Okay, so this nitrogen fixation is a little complex and a very large cycle. It's a big cycle which we have to do it bit by bit. So did you all follow this nitrogen cycle and its introduction? So firstly you should remember what are the uses of this nitrogen. This nitrogen forms the building block for proteins and nucleic acids. And what is the percentage of nitrogen in the atmosphere? Everyone, you should be on page 172. Okay. So this atmospheric nitrogen is getting converted into the useful forms of nitrogen. That is the different forms of nitrogen which will be fixed by whom? By the bacteria. So the first stage in our nitrogen cycle. So this nitrogen cycle has several stages. So there are so many stages in this nitrogen cycle. Okay, so we will talk in detail about the different stages in nitrogen cycle. So in nitrogen cycle, the first stage we are going to talk about is nitrogen fixation. Okay, so first stage is called as the nitrogen fixation. Just now before I told you what is the meaning of fixation. Okay, fixation meaning is you are converting the atmospheric nitrogen into the useful forms, useful biological forms, that is nitrites and nitrates. And who is doing this work? This is being done by the bacteria. Alright, so this is the first stage where you are converting the inert, remember inert, inactive nitrogen into the useful form of nitrogen. Right? So here this is done by the bacteria, and those bacteria we call it as symbiotic bacteria. Alright, symbiotic. You know the relationship of symbiosis. Like you have symbiosis relationship. Even in the classroom you have symbiotic relationship. Symbiotic, like you are giving something to your friend and the friend in return is giving something to you. So this cooperative relationship or the relationship in which both the partners are benefited, such type of relationship we call it as symbiotic relationship, or that relation is called as symbiosis. You got the term symbiosis? So this symbiotic bacteria help in the fixation of nitrogen. So that is the first stage. Okay, and you all know what is that crops? We call it as leguminous plants or leguminous crops. Like you have groundnut, peas, all these plants are leguminous plants. And you have seen these leguminous roots. They have so many nodules, isn't it? Nodules, we talk about the root nodules. So these root nodules, who is living in these root nodules? You know, rhizobium. Rhizobium is the bacteria which is living in association with the roots. Followed. So here, first stage of our nitrogen cycle is, what is it? It is called as nitrogen fixation. So this nitrogen fixation, firstly we said it is by the bacteria. There is little bit of fixation by even the lightning. Not only bacteria, even lightning. You have seen lightning during rains. So this lightning also helps in the fixation of nitrogen. That means nitrogen is getting converted to nitrites and nitrates. So next, this will be taken up by whom? This fixed nitrogen will be taken up by the plants. So next stage in our nitrogen cycle is nitrification. Nitrification. The second stage in nitrogen cycle is nitrification. So when I tell nitrification, you should know on page 173. Nitrification meaning is you are going to convert nitrites or nitrates. Okay. So just see, nitrates getting converted to different useful products or useful form of nitrogen. So just page number 173. Nitrates can also be converted to ammonia by the denitrifying bacteria. Denitrifying bacteria means nitrates getting converted to ammonia. Ammonia is NH3. NH3. This process is called as ammonification. Ammonification means conversion of nitrates into ammonia. Okay, so there are some ammonifying bacteria or denitrifying bacteria which converts nitrates into ammonia. Then further, this ammonia is getting converted to another component, that is nitrites. Nitrites is NO2. So which is the bacteria here? Denitrifying bacteria. And here it is nitrifying bacteria. Okay, denitrifying bacteria, nitrifying bacteria. You know nitrifying bacteria, what are the examples? Nitrosomonas. So this ammonia is converted to nitrites. Further, this nitrites getting converted to nitrates. Converted by nitrates. Nitrobacter, the bacteria which converts nitrite to nitrate, nitrobacter. Here, nitrosomonas. Nitrosomonas convert ammonia into nitrite. Nitrite into nitrate. So see the cycle in this way. This is which phase or which stage? This is called as nitrification. So in nitrification you saw that the nitrites or the nitrates getting converted to ammonia. Okay. Now you may think why these nitrates are again getting converted to nitrates again. These nitrates will be easily used by who? Plants. So these are the useful form of nitrogen which can be used up by the plants. The third stage of our cycle is assimilation. So there are total 4 stages. There are 4 stages of nitrogen. 4 and one more last stage also, that is total we have 5 stages of nitrogen cycle. So assimilation, third stage. Third stage is assimilation stage. Assimilation here meaning is whatever nitrogen is taken up by the plants, this nitrogen gets assimilated. Assimilated in which building blocks? That is proteins and nucleic acids. Okay, so this nitrogen compounds, which are the nitrogen compounds? Especially we are talking about nitrates. Followed? Especially we are talking about the nitrates. They are used up. These nitrates are used up by whom? By plants. Then these plants will be eaten up by the herbivores. Then by the carnivores. So in this way, there will be the assimilation. Did you understand? Assimilation means accumulation. There will be the utilization of this nitrogen. The fourth stage, when we talk about the fourth stage is called as ammonification. So just refer to your page number 174. Ammonification means the production of ammonia. Okay. Further again, opposite, here we saw ammonia is turned into nitrite. Now again, further this nitrate is getting converted into again back to ammonia. Again, so that is ammonification, right? So this ammonification occurs when plants and animals die. Remember, your plant contains nitrate. When they die, that means after their death, they get buried in the soil. Okay, and this ammonia is returning back to the soil. That means your nitrate turning into ammonia, and this is broken up by which bacteria? We call them as decomposers. Decomposers, why we are telling decomposers? Because this is after the death of the plants and animals. So these decomposers convert nitrate into ammonia. Okay. Next, last stage. The last stage of our cycle is denitrification. The last stage, denitrification. Denitrification means our nitrate or nitrogen is going back to the environment. It is going back to the atmosphere. So that is denitrification. So here denitrification means nitrate is converted back to atmospheric nitrogen, inactive, cyclic form. Understood? We started from the atmospheric nitrogen, we reached to nitrate, right? Again we went back to ammonia. From ammonia it is going back again to the atmosphere. So this cyclic manner, right? So denitrification is the last stage. So you can go through page number 173 where they have given in detail the structure or the diagram for the or flow chart for the nitrogen cycle. So just go through once again recap. There are 5 total stages in nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen fixation. Second, nitrification. Third, assimilation. Assimilation is a very simple stage. In one line you can say the nitrogen gets assimilated into plants and then to the animals. Then there is ammonification. Last stage, denitrification. So that's all for today. Thank you.